All right, everybody. This is the most dangerous belief that if you have it, is keeping you from being able to make your first $1 million online. I was able to make my first $1 million profit after tax, after all expenses, actual profit at the age of about 21 or about 22 online. Okay. And I'll tell you what, this is one of the main things that I had to work through because I, like a lot of people, was inspired to get into entrepreneurship by the observation of other successful entrepreneurs. Okay. And with that came a little spark of envy. And with that came a little spark of comparison. And it's kind of a catch-22 because it's like, well, we should be glad that these people are inspiring us. But at the same time, it comes with it comparison, envy, and probably the most devious in the belief that I'm really going to talk about, which is imposter syndrome. Okay, and thinking that, and this is inspired by actually a conversation I'm having with a client who, this is actually a very, very established individual. They've sold and done they've literally, under my counsel, reached six-figure months in their business multiple times over in a couple of different verticals, okay? And they're moving into a new vertical. And so this is how common this thing is, that it keeps coming back up, and even for me, it keeps coming back up as well. And I don't think that it will ever all the way go away. No matter how hard you try, no matter how hard I try, you have to remind yourself of some base first principles for it to go away. And what I'm talking about is comparison, imposter syndrome, and really this idea that, like, why would somebody buy my thing when they exist, when their thing's out there and it's better than mine? And this is how humans work. We're designed to be always putting ourselves on almost a social hierarchy where we are always comparing to how we stand up to the crowd. So we're always looking for evidence that we might not be welcome, because to not be welcome or to not be deserving of that status in that group, that's like the most dangerous thing that we could experience, because that means, getting shunned from the group, and we'd have to survive on our own, and nobody can survive on their own. That's at least how we adapted, right? Is to really think that way and parse things through that way. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how to cure permanently imposter syndrome and comparison. Okay, I'm going to talk about some really, really simple tools to make that happen, because at every single level, it is one of the, as you grow in business, your problems stop becoming physical, strategic. They start mostly becoming spiritual, mental, emotional, and psychological. Okay. They're always spiritual, mental, emotional, and psychological, but when you don't have good strategy, you need good strategy first. So get good strategy and then work on these things. And so I want to talk about that in this video, and I want to talk about how to solve comparison. Okay, so the very first tool, and this is something that nobody will tell you. Nobody said this before, but for whatever reason, I just forced myself to do this, and it's helped me every single time. The person that you envy, the person that you're comparing to, the person that you think has the results that you want that you can't get, or you feel like they're better than you for whatever, get in proximity with them. Okay, get close to them, whatever that looks like. If that looks like networking with them, doing business with them, if it looks like buying what they have for sale, if it looks like attending an event of theirs, if it looks like inviting them to your podcast, whatever it is, I don't care. Get in proximity. And what you'll realize is their result is the byproduct of a certain set of patterns, decisions, and actions that they've taken. And you can literally just model those patterns, decisions, and actions into your own life. So through the process of proximity to the person that you feel like is better than you, that you feel like invalidates you, by getting in proximity, you're going to realize, wow, there's, first of all, a lot of people that don't resonate with them. So there's a market for everybody in this space. There's a market for literally everybody. Okay. There's really no such thing as competition unless you make it up to be in your head. Okay. And so by getting in proximity, you're going to learn how they think and how they move and what they do that causes the results that you're envying and that you're comparing to, okay? And it's going to help you inspire your own approach in the way that you move and the way that you walk, so that you can drive similar results for your clients and what you do. So I would encourage you, the first step is get in proximity, okay? Such a simple step, but so powerful, because pretty much everybody I've ever envied, like I first got into the space because there's a couple key people in the space that I'm like, man, like I literally I idolized these people. They were like freaking rock stars to me. And I just forced myself to get into proximity. I developed friendships. I got to know, I understood. I'm like, man, these are like, you start to realize like they're normal people that are just doing the right things. That's it. and they're not special, and you totally can still win even though they're winning, okay? So the second thing is you got to get out of your head this idea. This is another idea that I think nobody talks about, but as humans, we adapted to having limited resource pools, okay? Limited resource pools. So when we were back in tribal settings or whatever, if you believe in the theory of evolution or whether you believe in creation, doesn't really matter. If you look at our past, for the longest time, we actually did have fairly limited resources. You know, that was how we lived for a very, very long time. Now, I believe that because of how much the economy has grown, because of how many resources are at play and how much there is to be done, that literally money's like an infinite resource. And most people are just after money, but money's an infinite resource. And if you want to make another video about why I believe that money is literally an infinite resource, I'd love to make that video. I think it is actually physically an infinite resource. That's not like hyperbole. That's not like an analogy. I literally believe that it's an infinite resource. And if you believe that it's an infinite resource, then somebody else's success does not take away from your success. Now, the problem is we can intellectually say, oh, their success doesn't take away from my success, but then in our hearts and in our bodies, like in our nervous system, we see somebody else winning, and we just naturally believe that that's taking away from our win. And so because we believe that, then we look for evidence that that's true. Oh, one of my clients signed up for their thing. Oh, this guy that was going to sign up for my thing signed up for their thing, right? You see that as their success is the taking away of your success. This is what's called the limited pie fallacy. And, people like Elon Musk are making this very much more known, but it's something that I've known for a very, very long time. I was raised in a household where we talked about these things, very blessed and lucky to have that as my upbringing. But, the idea that wealth is more like a candle light, meaning like I can light your candle and now we're both on fire and neither of us have lost anything in the process. It's not like a cake, meaning if you have a piece, there's less left for me. That's not how wealth works. That's not how any industry necessarily works. There might be cycles where, you and your competitors kind of go up and down, but you're both growing, you know what I mean? And so you got to see, like, even in the short term, if one does a little more than you, a couple of your clients go their way, you're kind of shifting, you're in the same kind of pool of business. You got to understand you're both growing, and it's actually a sign that you're doing really, really well in business if the people that you consider your competition are killing it as well. So it's a very, very good thing, and you should be very, very happy that that's the case. And I would also add that, it's wired into us to believe that somebody else's success that we're in proximity to takes away from our success when it is just literally, physically not true. It's just physically, especially in an industry like ours where products can be made out of basically thin air. It's information and coaching. Marketing can be thrown together out of thin air, and new platforms. You can literally come up with a new concept, a new idea, a new mechanism, and create whole new markets off of that mechanism, right? And so it's literally an infinite game. And so you have to truly believe that, and that will get you out of this idea of, oh, their success takes away from mine. Okay? So the next point to get rid of imposter syndrome and this feeling of other people's success take away from yours is what I want you to do is actually take extremely seriously for at least a 30-day period tracking your own progress. And what's amazing is when you're like losing, you're aware of the success of others. But when you're making your own progress, how other people are doing like doesn't even matter. You don't even consider it. It's not even in your like peripheral vision. You're just paying attention to what's in front of you and making progress that gets you where you want to get. And you're tracking it like methodically, day after day, tracking your bank balance or tracking whatever's important to you, tracking your YouTube views or tracking your ad performance or whatever it is, whatever metric you want to track, just actually track it for 30 days. Most people will never do this for whatever reason. I honestly think it's because they don't love and respect themselves enough to give themselves the gift of self-awareness, quite frankly. And so if you love and respect yourself, you want the best life for yourself, you're going to track stuff for at least 30 days. It's 30 days. You're going to be alive for 50, 60, 70, 80 years, right? And so, honestly, 30 days is nothing, okay? It changes your whole life. It changes your trajectory to feel progress. And a lot of people, they live in these, like, day-tight compartments. They don't see progress over longer-term time horizons. So if you can just look at, like in our business, we have a tracking sheet that shows me every single day how much we spend on advertising, how many leads, how many calls, how many sales, the return on that advertising. Like this month in one of our businesses that we're growing on the side, we're like 8x cash return on advertising, and I have the whole thing mapped out. And last month we were like 2.5x. We've made some changes. Like I can see the progress, right? So I can see it over time. And with this YouTube channel, I track it. I've got a little tracking sheet, kind of just me versus me. I just look at like how it's doing. And I just like growing this YouTube, honestly, mostly for fun. I love YouTube and I love content, so I can see that growing. And what this sense of progress that you can have with yourself, what it does is it gets you almost excited for other people's success as well. Because it's like proof that with enough time, you can do it too. Because if you can prove to yourself that you can go from 0 to 1 and you see somebody else at 10, it's like, oh my gosh, I can get to 10 too. I'm already at 1. What's another, jump, right? And so I want you to track your own progress and get the blinders on and just feel your own movement forward. Okay, it's so powerful if you can get back into that state of me versus me. Nothing else exists. I'm just making progress on this thing that I care about because I love it. And it takes other people's progress and it becomes inspiring to you. And that's kind of the last point is if you're doing everything I'm talking about in this video, getting into proximity, right? Removing the idea that like their success somehow takes from yours and believing more in an infinite game, okay? And you're actually tracking your own progress and you're actually making measured and marked progress towards the things that are important to you. And again, a little progress is still progress. You just have to sell yourself on the idea that you can make progress. Because a lot of people, they don't even believe that. Like they're literally stuck under this current of like, I can't even make progress. I don't even like myself. I don't believe that I can even do this. And even as a success, like I've sold millions and millions and millions of dollars online and I can get trapped in this. I can get trapped in this feeling of like, oh, I'm never going to get, whatever, wherever it is that I believe that I'm supposed to be by now, right? Which I think is also a silly thing. You should just count the days and show up every day, right? But either way, the final thing in getting rid of imposter syndrome and comparison is what I want you to do is I want you to genuinely, and this is spiritual for me, and this is actually in scripture, okay? And if you don't believe in prayer, that's fine. You can do this in your own way. But scripture says that if you pray for those who are against you, that the Lord will bless you, okay? And one of the things that I've made a practice of is actually praying for the success of the people that, maybe other people would consider my competition, or maybe they would consider me competition, even though I don't see it to be the case. So I'd actually pray for the success of what it is that they do, and I would pray that they succeed because, quite frankly, selfishly, if they succeed, then we all kind of succeed together. But moreover, it humbles me and it keeps me aware of like, okay, I'm a human, they're a human. We're on an equal playing field, okay? There's nobody's better or worse. I'm going to bless their thing and give it my blessing and hope and genuinely pray that they succeed because truthfully, I grow the most when the people around me are growing, and often the people around me are the people that like I'm like kind of competing with, you know what I mean? And so it ends up being this thing where like we all kind of grow together. And so in a way it benefits me, but even if it didn't, it's a heart posture thing of genuinely appreciating that you're in a space or in an industry or in an environment where you're even in proximity to people who are doing well, and you have the humility of heart to say, I genuinely hope this person does well. I genuinely hope they can figure it out. I genuinely want to see them win. And when you can get there, I think that's where you have the most emotional and spiritual freedom is when you just genuinely want to see everybody winning. And I think that attitude of genuinely wanting to see everybody win is infectious and it's incredibly attractive, and your team will feel it, your clients will feel it. Everybody around you will feel when that's truly your heart of heart posture. And I think one of the best ways to affect heart posture is through prayer. And so I would highly encourage it. So guys, I just wanted to talk about something that's very, very important to me, something that I've seen a lot in this space. And I think as I begin to close out this video, I don't know how much longer I'm going to go on this. I just wanted to kind of give you a word of warning about comparison and about envy and about the dangers that it can do. And I'll tell you this kind of through a personal story. So this was a couple years ago now. I had a client of mine who I was consulting, and he blew up like faster than even I was able to blow up in my business. So he got to 6 figures a month in like a couple months. And it took me like 3 freaking years to finally figure that out. Like I had all kinds of like mental balls and chains that I was bringing into this game that this guy just didn't have. Okay. He just went right for it. And he crossed 7 figures in the bank way faster than I was able to. Right. And like he hit all these milestones way faster than I was able to. And I at the time, and it was very strange because he was a student of mine, and he even like was willing to give me credit and stuff, and like he was sending me business and stuff. It was just like he was a freaking force of nature, you know. And some of the people following my content probably even know who I'm talking about. Honestly, it's which is quite funny, and I think that's very, very cool that people might even know who I'm talking about. But if you ask, I probably won't tell you, just to respect the relationship. But you know, it really stunted my growth. Honestly, it got me out of focus with what worked for me. They had found ways to take the first principles and the things that I knew worked that I taught and trained him on and made them work in his own context. And I uprooted my context and tried to plant it into his and tried to take what was working for him in his context and make it work in my context. And it didn't freaking work. And I lost so much time and I lost so much money and I lost so much energy because I got envious, because I got selfish and I got greedy, because somebody else figured out something that worked for them, and I tried to make it slot into my particular context. Now, to give some needed context, this person, A, has very, very different values than I have. The things that they just value in life are very different, okay? So, you know, I value family in a huge, huge way. And I'm not saying that they don't, but I remember one of the times that I was kind of coming to them for like some input and advice. They were like, dude, you just got to spend less time with your family. And I'm like, man, like, I don't want to do that. You know, and like, I remember one time, you know, something like getting married and going and everything, and like he couldn't even make it out to the wedding. You know what I mean? And so it's just like I just lived a very different life than this person did. They made sacrifices that I just fundamentally wasn't willing to make. And I'm not saying either of us is wrong or right. That people can choose what sacrifices they want to make, and I'm still to this day incredibly proud of this person. And it's because he was willing to sacrifice things that I wasn't doesn't make me better than him. That's not what I'm saying. In business, that actually makes him better than me, okay? Because basically, you could just measure somebody off of their results, right? And he got there faster and with more veracity and stayed there in a way that I wasn't able to, okay? And so, but the point I'm trying to make is I started shifting around my whole business. I was like, okay, they're doing this traffic channel. I'm going to try and figure that traffic channel out. They have their team structured in this way. It didn't really make sense for me. I didn't really see why he did it, but I just was going to just copy it and mimic it over here. And so basically, I totally threw out my entire like playbook of what had worked for me up until that point because this person was doing something that was working really, really, really well for them considering their skill set, their context, what they brought to the table, the energy levels that they had, the personal life situation that they had, et cetera, okay? And I wanted to make it work for me, and it just didn't work because we just had two totally different philosophies with how we were going to do things. Like, I had taught them the strategy and some basics of just, like, the mindset end of things, you know, helping them overcome a limiting self-image of having been they were a sales rep when they first came to me, and then they came into my coaching and went from being a sales rep making $7 or $10 grand a month to literally they had their first $1 million month. This would have been November of 2023, I believe. And this person, I got so incredibly envious of them. It was insane. I mean, I remember calling my dad, and I remember opening up. This is one of the only times that I've ever like gotten so emotional about business that I like cried. And there's a bit of a tone shift, but I called my dad and I was like, Dad, I feel like I'm like failing. Like this guy's just like going out here and just kicking it, and I'm just like, how does this even happen? How do you arrive? Like, and he was just like, oh, bud, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that sucks. Like, that's got to be such a hard feeling. But I think on some level, he knew that what I needed to hear was, dude, you're comparing yourself to this guy, and it's just unhealthy. And it's just, you need to stop that cycle. You need to get focused on yourself again. You get focused on your own wins, not how your wins compare to this guy. And there will always, always, always be somebody in your space. There will always be somebody who's bigger than you. There will always be somebody who you're going to compare to. And the way that you prevent that spiral and the way that you prevent the loss of years, the loss of money, the loss of energy, the loss of time is by the steps that I had listed earlier, okay? It's no coincidence that I wasn't following these steps when I got so envious of this individual. I wasn't in proximity to them. Our friendship had kind of distanced because I didn't know how to handle the envy. So the first rule that I shared was get in proximity. I had lost the proximity, okay? My envy got the best of me. So I'd lost the proximity, okay? I wasn't in proximity to them anymore. I wasn't celebrating their success and praying over their business. You know what I mean? I had convinced myself that their wins were my loss, okay? I'd done the exact opposite of what I've detailed in this video. And it honestly cost me like a solid year. It cost me like a solid year of growth. And It's something I've never really shared that much before, but it's something that I feel comfortable sharing now because I'm relatively healed from the experience, and I've moved on quite a bit, and I've had a little more, years in my life, just a little bit more, not a lot more. I was probably like 21 or 22 when this first happened, but enough that I realized like things come and go, and the market moves, and things shift, and and this person has had their highs and their own lows, and I'm able to sort of start to see like, okay, like the only thing that really matters is how I'm showing up every single day for my own business. So look, I hope this has been a valuable video for you guys. I genuinely believe that this is the number one thing keeping people from having lasting success. It's this interesting dichotomy of people tend to succeed because they're envious, but then they also, because they want to like catch up to something, but then they also tend to like stay stuck because they're envious, and because they compare, and because they have imposter syndrome, and because they feel like they must be doing something wrong because this person's growing so fast. Like there must be something fundamentally wrong with my whole approach. And I got to tell you that idea is robbing you of so much money and so much growth. And I genuinely, I pray for you, and if you don't believe in prayer, then I send my blessings and my thoughts your way, or whatever the heck you want me to say, in hopes that you can work through that, and you can be on the other side and be a healthier, happier individual, and one that has the self-respect and the self-love enough to invest into yourself through the daily work in your enterprise, whatever that might be. Okay, so thanks for watching this video, you guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video and it's been helpful for you, and I'll see you in the next one.